School shootings have always left the world with devastation and heartbreak, but in rare cases, the attackers find themselves facing what they never saw coming, someone who fights back. Today, we'll be sharing these powerful moments of courage, stories of individuals who, in the face of unimaginable danger, stood their ground, fought back, and changed the outcome of a nightmare. 5th June 2014, the Seattle Pacific University incident. On 5th June 2014, students in Otter Miller Hall at the Seattle Pacific University thought that the sudden appearance of a gunman on their campus was actually some sort of an end-of-year prank featuring a fake firearm. But after the horrific reality set in, students have described rushing to warn others away from Otter Miller Hall or helping the wounded. 27-year-old Aaron Ibarra had already murdered 19-year-old Paul Lee and injured 3 others when student John Mice stopped him, potentially saving many other lives. This extraordinary act of courage was caught on camera when John Mice tackled the school shooter in the most remarkable way. Before the shooting took place, Ibarra had deteriorating mental health and had been diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder and transient psychosis. Ibarra also had a disturbing fascination with the Columbine High School shooting of 1999. In fact, during his testimony, he even claimed that he was hearing one of the shooting perpetrators, Eric Harris's voice. Ibarra claimed that God was also communicating with him before the shooting, and that he wanted Ibarra to become an example of what happens to sinners. Ibarra had planned this shooting for quite a long time. Before 5th June, he had even convinced 2 female students to give him a private tour of the school, during which he looked for possible escape routes for the students during a shooting. On the day of the incident, the perp arrived at SPU in a white pickup truck and parked on the street. He exited the truck with a Browning over-under shotgun, a large fixed-blade hunting knife, and additional live shotgun rounds. Ibarra walked onto the SPU campus and approached Paul Lee, revealing his gun. But when Lee didn't react with fear, Ibarra made a chilling decision. He pulled the trigger. The blast struck Lee in the back of the head at point-blank range, ending his life instantly. Pellets from the shotgun round also hit Thomas Fowler, standing a few feet away. Ibarra then turned his weapon on a nearby woman, ready to claim another victim, but fate intervened. His gun misfired, giving her the precious seconds she needed to escape. Ibarra reloaded his weapon and stepped into Otter Miller Hall, searching for his next target. Inside, he spotted Tristan Cooper Roth sitting at a table. Pointing his gun at him, Ibarra coldly stated that he had just shot a man outside for disrespecting him, and warned Cooper Roth not to move. Cooper Roth later told police he was certain he was about to die. Moments later, Ibarra's attention shifted. He saw Sarah Williams coming down the stairs and without hesitation pulled the trigger. The shot struck her in the upper torso. In the chaos, Cooper Roth saw his chance and bolted. Ibarra turned his gun on him and fired, but once again, the weapon misfired, sparing another life. As Ibarra fumbled to reload his weapon, fate and courage intervened. John Meese, a student safety monitor, saw his chance and acted without hesitation. With a burst of movement, he unleashed a blast of pepper spray, temporarily blinding Ibarra before tackling him to the ground. Disarmed and dazed, Ibarra reached for the blade at his waist, but Meese was faster. He kicked the knife away and pinned Ibarra down, holding him there until help arrived. 911 dispatchers began receiving frantic calls about the shooting, and within minutes, Seattle Police Department officers arrived on the scene and secured the area. During his testimony, John recalled the incident, saying, "I saw the shooter open his shotgun and try to reload, so I got pepper spray from my backpack and sprayed him in the face twice. I got the shotgun away from him and put it in the little room." That's how a student armed with nothing but quick thinking, bravery, and a little can of pepper spray put an end to the rampage. 7th May 2019, STEM School Highlands Ranch incident. At 1:54 p.m. on 7th May 2019, an alarm blared across Douglas County's first responder radios. 2 shooters had opened fire at STEM School Highlands Ranch in suburban Denver. Devin Erickson and Alec McKinney had come prepared for this mass destruction. Together, they brought all kinds of ammunition, ensuring they had more than enough firepower to inflict maximum casualties. Their intent was crystal clear. Erickson went into his British literature classroom, where students were watching The Princess Bride when their worst nightmare unfolded. unfolded. One of their classmates, someone they had known for years, suddenly pulled out a gun. As the shooter ordered them not to move, 18-year-old Kendrick Castillo refused to comply. He lunged at the attacker without hesitation, slamming into him with full force. The shooter fired, hitting Kendrick, but his sacrifice gave his classmates precious seconds to dive for cover or flee. His heroic charge wasn't in vain. It sparked others to fight back. Two other senior students, Brendan Biley and Joshua Jones, rushed the shooter, tackling him to the ground. While some students subdued the attacker, others worked frantically to stop the bleeding, pressing down on the wound as gunfire still echoed through the halls. Brendan Biley, a future Marine, was later praised for his decisive actions. The Marine Corps issued a statement commending his bravery, calling it admirable and inspiring. But Brendan wasn't the only one who stepped up. A security guard contracted by the school managed to restrain the other suspect until deputies arrived, ensuring the attack didn't escalate further. When the dust settled, 8 students were injured, but thanks to the selfless courage of Kendrick Castillo and his classmates, many more lives were saved. Kendrick paid the ultimate price, but his legacy endures as a testament to what true heroism looks like. His actions, along with those of Bialy and Jones, proved that even in the face of unimaginable terror, there are those who will rise to fight back, who refuse to let evil win. But just 10 days after this shooting, another deadly act occurred at Parkrose High School. 17th May 2019, the Parkrose High School incident. On May 17, 2019, a normal school day at Parkrose High School in Portland, Oregon, nearly turned into a tragedy. Angel Granados Diaz, an 18-year-old student, walked through the hallways with a loaded shotgun hidden under his jacket, his mind set on a devastating plan. But what could have ended in heartbreak instead became a story of hope, thanks to the quick thinking and incredible courage of one man, Coach Keenan Lowe. Lowe, a former star wide receiver for the University of Oregon Ducks, was more than just a football coach. He was a mentor, leader, and trusted figure. But on this fateful day, his role became something much greater. Around noon, Angel entered a classroom revealing his weapon. Panic erupted as students bolted through the nearest exit, desperate to escape. Standing near the doorway, just feet away, was Coach Lowe. Without a second thought for his own safety, he sprang into action, lunging at Angel and grabbing the shotgun with both hands. A tense struggle followed, teacher versus student, both gripping the weapon. Lowe knew he couldn't let that gun go off, not with terrified students fleeing around them. Using every ounce of his strength, he managed to wrestle the shotgun away, handing it to another teacher before pulling Angel out into the hallway. But then, something truly remarkable happened. Instead of reacting with anger or fear, Lowe chose compassion. He didn't yell, he didn't strike, he embraced. Wrapping his arms around the distraught teenager, he hugged him tightly, whispering words of reassurance. Security footage captured the moment. Angel, visibly shaken, leaning into the comfort of the man who had just disarmed him. Through tears, he admitted the heartbreaking truth. He never intended to hurt anyone but himself. That shotgun held a single round marked with the date of the incident. In his jacket, a note was later found, confirming his carefully planned intention to end his own life. But because of Lowe, that didn't happen. He even told the shaking kid that he was there for a reason, to save him. Angel was later sentenced to 3 years of probation and received the mental health support he desperately needed. Meanwhile, Lowe was hailed as a hero, receiving national recognition, including the prestigious Congressional Medal of Honor's Citizen Honor Award. 21st January 2017, the West Liberty Salem High School incident. On the morning of January 20th, 2017, at West Liberty Salem High School in Ohio, 16-year-old Logan Cole stepped into the boys' restroom, expecting nothing more than a quick glance in the mirror. Instead, he walked straight into a nightmare. Inside the restroom stood another student, Ely Cerna, a 17-year-old struggling with severe depression. Hidden inside his bag was a loaded shotgun, and in his mind, a dark plan was unfolding. The bathroom was his chosen staging area, a place where he could ready his weapon before stepping into the hallways to unleash devastation. Then, without warning, Ely raised the shotgun and fired. The blast struck Logan in the chest and back, sending him crashing to the floor. A second shot followed, leaving him with over 200 shotgun pellets embedded in his body. The impact shattered one of his teeth and left him bleeding out on the cold tiles. Most people would have panicked, begged for their lives, or simply given up, but Logan did something incredible. Despite the pain, despite the fear, he spoke, telling Ely to let go of this plan. plan. Meanwhile, outside the restroom, the sound of gunfire had sent shockwaves through the school. Panic erupted as students and teachers scrambled for safety. But amidst the chaos, two men were running toward the danger: Principal Greg Johnson and Assistant Principal Andy McGill. They had no weapons, no body armor, no idea what they were walking into, but they knew their students were in danger and refused to stand by. Bursting into the restroom, they found Logan on the ground, bleeding heavily. With remarkable composure, the two administrators subdued Ely, and in a moment no one could have predicted, he slid the shotgun under the stall door and surrendered. For Principal Johnson, the nightmare was even more personal. His wife and 3 children were inside the school that day. The stakes weren't just professional, they were deeply personal. By the time law enforcement arrived, the danger had already been neutralized. Eli Cerna was taken into custody and later sentenced to 23.5 years in prison for attempted murder, felonious assault, and inducing panic. His trial revealed his struggles with major depression, an explanation but not an excuse. As for Logan, he was rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery. His survival was nothing short of a miracle. The wounds he bore told a painful story, but his courage, his refusal to give in to fear, turned what could have been a massacre into an act of extraordinary heroism. 25th May 2018, Noblesville West Middle School incident. May 25, 2018, started as an ordinary school day at Noblesville West Middle School in Indiana. Students were focused on their morning lessons, unaware that one of their own was preparing to unleash terror in their classroom. But on this day, the shooter would come face to face with someone who refused to let him carry out his deadly plan: science teacher and former football player Jason Seaman. At 9:06 a.m., second period students sat quietly, working on their science test. Among them was Ella Whistler, a bright and well-liked 13-year-old seated near the front of the room. Meanwhile, a fellow student, also 13, was nursing dark thoughts hidden beneath the surface of his normally friendly and outgoing demeanor. The day before, he had filmed a chilling video in his basement, showcasing 2 handguns while declaring his intent to take lives before taking his own. He even sent warning texts to 3 classmates, urging them to stay home. But when he woke up that morning, he played the role of an ordinary kid. His mother saw nothing unusual. He chatted about an upcoming band concert, packed his backpack, and headed to school. Hidden inside that backpack, however, were 2 handguns and a knife. During the second period, the boy asked to be excused from his classroom. He walked calmly to his locker, retrieved his bag, and entered the restroom. There, he unzipped the backpack, removed his .22 caliber handgun, and concealed it beneath his sweatshirt. Taking a deep breath, he stepped back into the classroom, ready to unleash his plan. Without hesitation, he pulled out the gun and opened fire. His first shots struck Jason Seaman, who had been standing near Ella, helping her with a question about the test. Despite the pain, Jason's instincts kicked in. As the classroom erupted into screams and chaos, he reached for the only weapon he had, a basketball, and hurled it at the shooter, momentarily distracting him. But Jason wasn't just any teacher. He was built for battle as a former defensive lineman at Southern Illinois University. His strength, agility, and determination had once helped his team claim 2 conference titles and make 3 playoff appearances. Now, those same skills were about to save lives. The shooter, realizing he had missed his intended targets, attempted to switch guns, but before he could act, Jason made his move. Ignoring the pain of 3 bullets lodged in his body, he charged straight at the gunman. With sheer force and determination, he tackled the shooter to the ground, overpowering him before he could fire another shot. As he wrestled the weapon away, Jason shouted at his students to evacuate. Panic spread throughout the school as students and staff rushed to safety. In the chaos, authorities received reports of a potential second threat at Noblesville High School, prompting police to lock down the area. Meanwhile, at the middle school, a school resource officer arrived on the scene and swiftly took the shooter into custody. When the dust settled, both Jason Seaman and Ella Whistler were critically injured, but alive. Jason had been shot 3 times, suffering wounds to his abdomen, hip, and forearm. Ella had been hit 7 times, sustaining injuries that would take years to recover from. Despite his heroism, Jason refused to call himself a hero. In his own words, "It was the only acceptable action I could have taken," but his bravery spoke louder than words. He had stopped a massacre with his bare hands, saving countless lives in the process. As for Ella, she faced a long road to recovery, but she survived because one teacher refused to back down. May 21, 1998, the Thurston High School incident. May 21, 1998, started like any other school day at Thurston High School in Springfield, Oregon. Students filled the hallways, chatting with friends, completely unaware that one of their own was about to unleash terror. But what could have been an even greater tragedy was stopped by a 17-year-old student named Jacob Riker, whose bravery changed everything. The shooter, 15-year-old Kipland Kinkle, had already committed unimaginable acts before stepping onto the campus that day. Just the night before, he had murdered his parents in their home, driven by a twisted inner turmoil he had been hiding for years. Armed with a semi-automatic rifle, 2 handguns, and over 1,000 rounds of ammunition, he walked into the school, ready to kill. Kinkle had been suspended from Thurston High School the previous day after being caught with a stolen handgun in his locker. But now, fueled by a deadly mix of rage and untreated mental illness, he was back, this time carrying far deadlier weapons. As he entered the campus, he immediately opened fire, killing Ben Walker, 16, and wounding another student before heading straight for the cafeteria, where 300 students were gathered. Chaos erupted the moment Kinkle stepped inside. Gunfire rang out. Students screamed, and panic spread like wildfire. As bullets tore through the air, students dove for cover under tables and scrambled for the exits. In the span of seconds, Kinkle had already shot and wounded dozens of his classmates. But in the midst of this nightmare, one student refused to let the carnage continue. Jacob Riker, a junior at Thurston, had been hit, a bullet tearing through his body. But instead of giving in to fear, he kept his eyes on the shooter, waiting for the right moment to strike. He saw Kinkle's hands move as he fumbled to reload his rifle. This was his chance. Ignoring the searing pain in his chest, Jacob sprang into action, charging straight at the gunman. With unbelievable courage, he tackled Kinkle, wrestling him for control of the rifle. But the shooter had more weapons hidden on him. As they struggled, Kinkle managed to pull out a Glock 19 pistol and fired another shot directly into Jacob's chest. Yet even a second gunshot wound couldn't stop him. Jacob's bravery ignited something in his fellow students. Seeing his determination, 6 other students rushed forward, piling on top of the shooter and pinning him to the ground. Kinkle thrashed and screamed, desperate to continue his rampage, but the students refused to let him go. They held him down until police officers arrived and took him into custody. Even after being subdued, Kinkle continued to resist, later attacking a police officer with a hidden knife and begging to be shot. But the immediate threat was over, thanks to Jacob Riker and the other courageous students who refused to let evil win. When the dust settled, 2 students, Ben Walker and Michael Nikolausen, had lost their lives and 25 others were wounded. But had it not been for Jacob Riker's fearless actions, the death toll could have been far higher. His courage saved countless lives that day. Jacob later received the Boy Scouts of America Honor Medal with crossed palms, one of the highest awards for bravery. Though he humbly downplayed his role, his actions remain a powerful testament to what true heroism looks like. In the aftermath of the tragedy, the Springfield community came together, building a memorial outside Thurston High School to honor the victims. But among the grief and pain, Jacob Riker's name stood as a symbol of hope. He was just a high school student, but when faced with life or death circumstances, he acted, fought, and saved lives. And for that, he will always be remembered as the hero of Thurston High. 6th May 2021, the Rigby Middle School incident. It was a morning like any other at Rigby Middle School in Idaho. Hallways filled with students, teachers preparing their lessons, and the usual chatter echoing through the building. But beneath the surface of normalcy, a nightmare was about to unfold. At 8:55 a.m., a 12-year-old girl dressed in black and wearing a surgical mask walked quietly through the hallways, her backpack concealing a semi-automatic pistol. Moments later, at 9:05 a.m., the first gunshot rang out. Many mistook it for construction noise or a prank, but the horrific reality became clear when the second and third shots followed. Panic spread like wildfire. Students ran for cover, teachers scrambled to protect their classes, and chaos filled the air. The school's custodian, Jim Wilson, was the first victim. Cleaning a nearby area, he turned toward the sound just as the shooter raised her arm. A bullet struck his leg, sending him staggering toward the counseling office, where staff administered first aid. Amid the terror, one person stepped forward, not with a weapon, but with bravery bravery and compassion. Kristen Knighting, a dedicated math teacher, heard the shots and immediately ushered her students to safety. But instead of barricading herself inside, she stepped into the hallway. Her heart must have been pounding, but her mind was sharp. Then she saw her, just a little girl, her hands shaking as she clutched the gun. At that moment, Knighting felt neither fear nor anger. Instead, she felt concerned. Moving slowly, she approached the shooter, speaking to her in a calm, steady voice. The girl's eyes filled with uncertainty. Knighting extended her hand, gently placing it over the child's and slowly taking the gun away. The weapon was no longer a threat. And then, in an act of incredible humanity, she pulled the girl into a hug. She held her, whispered to her, and reassured her. In that embrace, she wasn't just disarming a shooter. She was saving a child from a moment of irreversible darkness. She kept the girl calm until law enforcement arrived and took her into custody. Thanks to Knighting's courage, no lives were lost that day. 3 victims, Jim Wilson and 2 students, sustained non-life-threatening injuries and were treated at the hospital. But the tragedy could have been far worse, if not for one teacher's unwavering courage. That day, in the face of danger, Kristen Knighting proved that a big heart is sometimes more powerful than a big gun. And that concludes the inspiring stories of these heroes who faced unimaginable danger and stopped tragedy in its tracks. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. And before you leave, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Criminal Corner so you don't miss the next ones.